good evening, and welcome to The Truth Behind the Truth. Yes, indeed. I am so excited tonight, boy. I mean, we are in pack for a great show. I mean, we have been blasting this show like all week long, y'all. I'm telling you. I didn't never know how many people are interested in sex.
Let's talk about sex, baby.
Right. I didn't know. I mean, like, wow. Like, okay, we'll go for it. At the end of the day, it's good.
That's on the top of most of our minds. Not, okay. I'm just speaking for the people.
Not personally, right? That's just what people. I get it. Yes, indeed. Well, we have makes the world this wonderful couple that will be with us tonight. Yeah. We do apologize. They are having a little bit of difficulty getting in. Yeah. So I did receive a message that they are waiting in the wings and they're trying to figure out they're skipping from just the camera, guys. Waiting in the wings. So we will go on with conversation until we can figure that out, with them, at that point. Go ahead and talk. I'm apologizing. Yes, this is the producer calling me on another line. Hold on one second.
This is live and in color. How you doing, partner?
I am doing great, darling. Thank you so much. I'm still celebrating my birthday weekend. Y'all, my birthday was Thursday, for those who don't know. So I'm
happy belated.
Thank you. Have me a little birthday cake while we
Oh, that looks good.
Oh, birthday cake, that looks good.
This is made by my loving husband. So this is also, a little something, especially for
now.
Me.
Okay.
So,
all right.
I guess y'all excuse me while I eat my little birthday cake before we get started. Before I get.
But you know what? I'm not on world TV eating his birthday cake.
It's his birthday. He gets a pass. He gets a pass.
A man of a certain age. On your birthday. That's what happens when you become a man of a certain age.
You do.
Again, continue the conversation, guys. I'm right here. I'm having to play. We're trying to interact, get this thing situated.
Hey, Laura, how you doing?
We're having a little issue tonight getting on, but go ahead and talk amongst yourselves.
I'm putting a spin on the what's that? The character from Saturday Night Live. I can eat cake on TV because I'm 50.
I know that's right.
What kind is it? It looks so good. What kind of cake is it?
It is kind of like a variation. Because Michael does. He loves his velvet cakes. So it's kind of he calls this is a party cake. So he did
party cake. I love it.
So he used coconut oil instead of like vegetable oil or whatever, butter and stuff like that. So it's got a little coconutty taste to it.
Right.
And it's kind of like I don't know how to describe it. It's got a nice little taste, and he loved the little cream cheese frosting that he kind of did a little something on there. So I'm like, marry you a chef.
I know, right?
Right.
Wrong with that.
Thank you, Laura.
I know that's the truth. How you doing, Harold? You doing okay?
I'm doing well. I'm doing very well. I'm doing good. Yeah. Just trying to settle in here.
Yeah,
that's good. Have you furnished the whole place yet? Or are you still working on it?
Yeah.
Oh no, we don't have that. We haven't gotten that many orders in to be furnishing the whole house.
Well, what I saw this week on Facebook. I mean, you should have been buying your next house.
We ain't got that many orders to be furnishing the whole house.
Okay, we got him.
It's like look like Harold didn't have no clothes money.
Right.
Okay,
I had to redirect those funds.
I love it.
That's why I had to do my birthday suit picture. I was like, okay, Harold's showing me up. Let me get my birthday suit.
Right. I thought you was on a mission to show us what your tantra was. Since our subject today is on tantra, I was like, okay, what this birthday?
That is awesome. Well, anyway, let's dig into our hot topics. I just got word that our guests will be in the green room getting ready, okay? Woo! And so we'll have them after we come back from our first break.
Yes.
We're so glad to have Freddie and Esteban and Freddie tonight with us. Oh, my gosh, this is going to be such a great show. I mean, I've been boosting this, like I said earlier, boosting the show all week long. We're putting on social media. I mean, I've been talking to coworkers at work. They're like ready for this. I'm like, okay. I guess somebody's gonna be making some baby somewhere or something. I don't know what they're gonna be making, but they're gonna make it something.
That's the truth.
And we're all saying they can blame it on the truth behind the truth and its authentic nature. Okay,
hey, we're just doing it for fun.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Yeah, I like that. Just do it
for educational purposes. Okay, right, exactly. It's very. I think this is going to be very educational for those people who don't see sex and only in a certain vein of life.
Right.
It's more complex than that. Now that I have did my research. Okay. But I want to talk about this subject though, y'all. And this is to be what? Okay, this New York subway shooting, y'all. Did y'all really think that guy could have been? Did you think otherwise? I'm just trying to be, very. Look at this. Look at this.
I mean, what do you mean?
Like, did you really think that this guy could actually have been black?
Well, I guess the first thought, if we might say the first thought was kind of no, because, only reason I'm saying that, because one thing in our world, we have to kind of be open. You know what I'm saying? As to things happening. No, I didn't, and because, when you think of terrorism, when situations happen like that. Yeah. So I kind of, and of course, unfortunately, our Arab, quote unquote, or our Israeli brothers and sisters have been, accused of doing all of the terroristic plots. But we won't mention the terrorist that was in the White House for 4 years, in the terroristic event that happened on January 6th. Okay, so that was terror. That was American terrorists. Okay, but so I don't want to. And please, audience, do not get me wrong. Okay, I'm not condoning what this guy did. Okay, but at the same time, we got to think about, are we going to crucify him, at the end of the day because of his mental capacity, the mental issue that had to go, or are we going to crucify these same, 500 people or more that attacked, attacked the same thing and killed people at the same point? Death is death. I mean, at least this guy didn't kill anybody, at the end of the day. I mean,
he could have.
Yeah, we could have, So I'm not lessening the two evils, you know what I'm saying? I'm not trying to do that, but I'm just trying to keep an open platform and idea how we look at things, That's how we do in this show, we got to keep it open. We hear the truth behind the truth, and we come up with and let you make your own truth behind, whatever.
Well, I'm going to add this. I'm going to add this onto it too, especially as content creators. Nowadays, now people are getting online and on social media saying whatever they want to say without any form of accountability, or not even thinking about accountability or responsibility for the content they're putting out. But this man had a YouTube page. He had a YouTube page sprouting all types of hatred and all types of craziness. His name was Frank R. James. I think that's his name is Frank R. James. And the fact that this man was going on YouTube talking about how he was going to do what he was going to do and talking about the homeless situation in New York and putting it out there for people to listen to this craziness and actually do it. So, it's now as people who are out here on YouTube, on social media, putting out certain content, this is an eye-opener for those people. Because we now have to be aware of what messages, we should have been aware before, but now it's now out there now to put up a red warning sign to say, listen, you cannot say each and every things that you want to say and not somebody investigating the content now. I'm just saying that. Parnell, did you have any,
Yeah, absolutely. Because it's definitely a thing, people are like, well, freedom of speech. I'm like, okay, once again, people, freedom of speech does not mean that you can say any damn thing you want to. Freedom of speech means that you can criticize the government without fear of being arrested.
I'm sorry to cut you off, brother. This I have said that for how long? Eons. Okay, that freedom of speech has been taken way out of context. When it came over, when it was incepted, it was when the colonists came over from England. Okay, because in England you could not state your case in a court of law without them shutting you down to hear your side of the case. Okay, that's all it was. Okay, we have made it like I can cuss you out, I can call you all kind of names, I can say everything. That is not what that is supposed to be. It was only to be used in a court of law so that they would hear your side of the story. That's what it was done for. It was created for. I mean to cut you off, but go ahead.
No, because you're right. You couldn't criticize the monarch. If you said something bad against the king or the queen, you could be executed. So when the founding fathers came here, like, we don't want that. We don't want anything where we can't criticize the government, that we can't hold the government accountable for what they do. Now, whether the government actually holds itself accountable, that's a whole other conversation.
Right, exactly.
But with this situation, with this man in particular, the concern is over policing. Everybody's like, well, we need more police. But as people were talking about, supposedly there are like 35,000 police officers on the subway station in New York at any given time.
Right.
So what was happening at this particular station, even the security cameras that were there were not working.
Oh, wow.
So that was the whole thing. It's like, okay, we spend all this money, we've got these security cams, but the maintenance is not being taken up to make sure that they're working. Now, I know this was not new. This shouldn't have been anything that they just discovered that day, that the security camera was not working. So then the question becomes, well, why did no one go check on it? There should always be maintenance to make sure that the things that we have to keep riders on the subway train safe are functioning properly. Absolutely. That the officers that I mean, I've been on the subway train in New York, and you see police officers all over the place,
all the time, walking back and forth.
Where was everybody?
Right.
You know, and it's not that I don't want people living in fear, but there should be the sort of reassurance that law enforcement is there in case something happens. You know, rather than spending time trying to stop people who may be jumping the turnstile, being there to make sure when something like this goes on, that there are law enforcement officers who are trained to deal with these situations who can keep the riders safe.
Harold, you have anything to say?
Well, you know, I've been protecting my peace, so I have not been following this story. But what I will say is that it just reminds me of how vulnerable we all are, because we don't know the mental state or capacity of anyone. And it just goes back to what you were saying a couple of weeks ago, JB. It's just so important that we are a little more kinder to one another, because we don't know what can trigger someone. We don't know what people are going through.
Exactly.
And I think we just have to be mindful of that. And we are all, you know, very more vulnerable than we know.
Gotcha.
Yeah, exactly. I totally agree.
Let me also add in this story, because I think this is very interesting too. Keisha Bottoms, former mayor of Atlanta, was turned away from Capitol Grill at Perimeter Mall because of her wearing leggings.
Oh, really? Wow. Okay, go ahead.
Have y'all been turned away from any of these restaurants from just not following any type of clothing protocol? And are you shocked with this? Because I'm shocked. The former mayor being turned away at a restaurant of all places. But
when I go out in my leggings, I'm just kidding.
You don't have that problem.
You don't have another thing going on while you're out in your leggings. Okay? I know we're talking to sex on the show tonight, okay? But and we'll end up having sex in the city, okay?
But you know, I know certain places do have a dress code,
right?
You know, where it's like certain places, you know, gentlemen have to have a collared shirt and or a jacket, you know. So I don't know what this restaurant's dress code is, or if she was singled out. Now, if there was somebody else, like let's say if there was a white woman in there with leggings, and then she comes in and she's got leggings, then it's a problem. But if it's a general thing,
like right there in a nutshell, Parnell, there she turned away, or when they told her that she couldn't come in, there was another woman behind her with the.
I would love to tell you, keep talking about leggings, but guess what? We got to go to a break.
We got to go to break.
So when we come back from break, our wonderful guest will be with us tonight, Dr. Ellsworth and Dr. Freddie. I'm going to cut it short so we get to the break. We'll talk about them in the introduction when they come in. But the love people are in the house. We really going, y'all. We'll see y'all after the break.
Talk about leggings.
All right, and we're back, guys. Thank you so much for tuning into the Truth Behind the Truth this evening. I'm sure you noticed the disclaimer that we have been going across tonight on the opening of our shows. Advisory needed, okay? Advisory is needed, definitely. So we're going to get in on a lot of adult content, a lot of adult conversation tonight. So better be ready, but we wanted you guys to be, so you can adjust yourself. If you got kids in the room or whatever, or you need to get your favorite adult beverage, okay, to enjoy Lucy. Have a great time tonight, all right? Not too loose on camera, anyway. All right, without further ado, let's bring our wonderful, wonderful guest for the very first time to the Truth Behind the Truth. And I'm sure after tonight it will not be the last. All right, go ahead, Dr.
Welcome. I would love to introduce our guests for tonight. Their names are Dr. Elspeth Muth and Freddie Zinto Weaver. These are the co-founders of Tantra Nova Institute that is based in Chicago, and they do nationwide, workshops worldwide as well. They assisted thousands of couples and single creates and lasting intimacies and fulfillment in their life and relationships. These are they are featured on Showtime's documentary series Sexual Healing, and they are Emmy Award-winning NBC show Starting Over. Best-selling authors of sexual enlightenment, endorsed by world-renowned spiritual pioneer Dr. Michael Beckwith, and the co-founder of, like I said again, Tantra Nova Institute.
Yeah.
So y'all, oh my goodness.
Welcome.
Oh my
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. We love. Guys, as you heard me say, this is hopefully going to be one of our biggest shows ever. Okay, we had never seen so many people ready to talk about sex before. Okay,
it's a hot subject.
It's a hot subject. We said we may need to have y'all back next week to continue. But anyway, we can get started. And Harold, if you wanted to take over and get started, and we go from there.
Yeah. Well, can I just say before we get started, Dr. Elspeth and Freddie, we were in our production meeting and we were looking at some of your videos, and I was saying to my colleagues, I'm like, they have this radiance about them. I'm like, okay, I want to do whatever they're doing. Whatever they're doing, that's what I want to do. So really excited to have you guys on the show.
Yeah.
And your book, Sexual Enlightenment. A lot of us are having sex, but I don't know if my sex is enlightened. So talk a little bit about what's sexual enlightenment. What does that really mean?
Yeah, great. Thanks again for having us on your show, your platform. So yeah, our book, we really are working to unpack how sex can be more than what we've always used it for. So forever we've been creating life, and the last 100 or so years recreating with the fun of contraceptives. And what we're teaching is how to co-create with this creative life force energy. So there's specific practices that you can employ while in the sexual energetic, and you can get more deeply connected to what it is you want to create. So we couple that. We'll unpack that as we go. So it's really using what happens energetically and chemically in the sexual aliveness to get more deeply connected to what it is you want to create more of in your life.
Yeah, and then the possibility of becoming one between our sexual and spiritual self. Traditionally, historically, they were to be separate.
Right.
However, we are both earthly and heavenly beings simultaneously. We have a body and we have a spirit all the time.
Right.
So the integration of our sexual and spiritual being really can open up and experience a state of bliss, and of course they are of different kind, but they are two sides of the same coin, and that is what we call sexual enlightenment.
I love that.
Awesome. Wow. How did you guys come to this work?
Good question. Well, good question, Harold. So I was first introduced to these practices that we teach as a curriculum when I was 13 years old. I was living in Hawaii, and I was going through my puberty, spending a lot of time in the shower.
Oh, that's where I used to be. Yes.
Right?
And, I have no idea what you're talking about.
Right. Yeah, like I said, it's a hot subject. So anyway, my father was a practicing psychiatrist. He took pity on me and gave me a book to read on how to integrate meditation and sex practices. And so, at the time.
Did we lose them?
Is that
all right.
We lost the connection.
Okay. They'll be right back.
We'll be right back. We'll be right back.
He was getting ready to give us the good stuff.
Right.
Oh my goodness. And I was
right. Oh my God.
But y'all know, hold on, dropped off. Okay, so
all right, yeah, they'll be right back, guys.
We'll be right back.
But anyway, well, let's go. Well, talk about your shower here.
What were you doing in the shower?
What were you doing in the shower at 13?
And I wish I had a dad that would have given me a book, so I didn't think that it was so taboo. You know,
but let's talk on this subject though. You know,
we're back.
Okay.
Yes.
So go ahead.
Okay, so I wanted to be an athlete in college, but I had these ambivalences, these doubts that I could do it. So the practices of sexual meditation allowed me to get past what I thought was my belief. And I really felt was my belief. So I went on to college, played athletics on scholarship. And then after basketball and after college, I kept doing these practices, reading books and applying in my personal relationships. And so I was in the software business for a long time in San Francisco. And when I first got in that business, I was really excited about it. But after about 15 years, it was just a job. So I knew from these practices to be inspired about my life. So I had this conversation going on that there was something missing. So an opportunity opened in Chicago. That was 21 years ago. They hired me, moved me to Chicago. I was still in the software business, but I was single. So I was looking for a Shakti, a female tantra partner. So I was online, and Elspeth's profile showed up. And we met. We were some of the early internet couples. We've been together for 21 years doing this work.
Wow, beautiful.
And at 6 months to the day we met, we pooled our resources and created this work. And the last, 21 years, we've worked all over the world, as I said, worked with thousands of couples and individuals, teaching them these practices of how you can use what we love about sex anyway, but also with some specific distinctions that give really actionable insights for people around intentions that they want to create. Like, I want a beloved, or I want work that's fulfilling. I live in a place that's inspiring, whatever it might be. There's nobody out there but us. So there's something I'm not seeing. So in the, to kind of further unpack this too. So in the sexual energetic, we're more open, loving, vulnerable, receptive, whether you're doing consciousness work or not. Chemically, we're changed, more oxytocin, endorphin, serotonin, the feel-good hormone. So we're in an altered state of consciousness. So with intention, like I want to create whatever, beloved or work that's inspiring, whatever it is, we are more intimately exposed to what we don't see that's running in the background, that's creating this belief energetically. So again, you get results. We've been doing this for a long time, and people begin to get shifts in their life and how they're living their life and creating more of what they want and stepping forward through the doubts, through the ambivalence, through the fear.
So this is where, so what you're saying basically is this is where most, humans, I'll say, lose the touch of intimacy, really, because they're not allowing the part of the backstory of their life to be exposed. Is that what I'm getting from that pretty much?
Well, there is a certain clay that we all are, which is, we have experiences in our life that are impacting, particularly early. Like if I was bit by a dog and now I'm 35 years old and I want to get a dog, but for some reason I don't seem to go get that dog. So there's something that's living in my unconscious that is part of that, that impacting moment. Okay. So to get to that is not always just, well, thank you, doctor, for helping me understand why I don't get a dog because I was bit by a dog. So that's one way to get it. But the other is actually going through the emotional and energetic stuff that keeps us locked in.
Right.
And so again, using the sexual energetic in that intimate, place and that chemically shifted, altered state, we can get more deeply connected to the energetic piece. And then we can start to step through to what we want, which is, in this.
So I've got one more question. I know Elspeth got it. I'm sure wants to chime in.
She's ready.
Quick question. I know, right? So, and I have this conversation with typically men a lot, and things like that, because especially younger guys and what have you, because they're kind of still understanding themselves a lot. So, is it true that typically from a male perspective, is like, one reason that I guess some, you would say, use the term, doesn't manage their sexuality in a good way is because that first shower experience, if I may go back to that, tends to be the thing that men run to, that first feeling that they got, and they run from partner to partner, expecting to get that same feeling, like for instance, like a person that started on drugs or something like cocaine. They say cocaine is like the first high, and you can always try to get back to it. So is that kind of the same thing that most men go through throughout the quest of their life, trying to get back to that same first shower experience?
Well, I know Elspeth wants to get in here, but I am a guy, so I'll say something about that. So the thing about that is, we start feeling deeply. When you have that sexual experience, the first orgasm, it's like, wow. When I first had one, I thought I never have to leave this room. Shit, right. I don't know what gets better than this. I don't know. Right. But for guys in the world, in society, we are not, supported to be emotionally, intimately vulnerable, right? It's two things for us guys. Either we're fucking or fighting. That's the two things that are okay emotionally for us guys to show. But to be intimate, to be exposed, to be, vulnerable, that's not something. So we often will, for guys, will be unconscious. It's a lusting thing. It appears as lust because we work with a lot of couples. They're in the peak of their sexual aliveness, and she's like, I don't know if he loves me, and he's like, of course I love you, pointing at his erection, and she's like, yeah, but can you kiss me with your heart? And that's not something that guys learn, but they will learn those practices here, and it starts with a particular thing. We'll get into it, but I know Elspeth wants to jump in here.
Yes.
Okay, I'm really dominated here. So how I came to Tantra, my story is very different from Freddie's. I wish I would have had a dad who would have given me a book on sex consciousness when I was a teenager. I don't know about you, but in my household, that was not customary.
Right.
Yeah.
For a lot of us. Yeah, for a lot of us. Yes.
Yeah. Yes. So I grew up in Germany, as you probably can tell from my accent, and came to the United States in my late 20s to do postgraduate work in music, and then moved to get my doctorate in education. And then I went into management consulting. And so that was in the 90s, and I had really gotten good at the consulting, but I was miserable in relationship. I had this pattern of attracting unavailable men. And while it was exciting, most of the time I was alone. And I started to see the trajectory. If I was not going to change that, I would end up without ever having lasting intimacy and love in my life before I leave this planet. And I just didn't want that. So I delved deeply into meditation and then into the practice of Tantra as a discipline, not just like reading a book here and there. And guys, it was so life-changing. There are very particular rituals, healing rituals. There's one for the woman, one for the man. And in my ritual, what opened up was that I found out that I got in touch with distrust for men. I had no clue. If you had known me 22, 23 years ago, you never would have called me a distrusting bitch. I was charming, I was inviting, I pulled them in. But underneath, we call it in the subconscious, that what is not visible to the conscious mind, there was some residue of distrust. And also what came up in that experience was that this was related to a time when I was 18 years old. First boyfriend, first love. We had a wonderful time, and then he asked me to have intercourse, and it was freakingly painful. I had said yes, but I was not really ready. So I had to go to the gynecologist, and the bill went to my house. My dad opened it, all hell broke loose. He called me a whore.
Wow.
Left shortly afterwards, and there I was totally alone, no soul to turn to. And that was the time when I closed off. With that closing off came a decision I made, which was, men are never there for you when you really need them, Elspeth. And that trailed me through my whole adult life until that moment when I had that deep clearing experience that brought back all the pain, the emotional and physical pain from that 18-year-old.
Wow.
So it was like opening a valve, where the steam gets intense and then fizzles out. It was the same experience of intense emotions, intense feelings, because while I had done work on that 18-year-old experience in therapy in my 30s, so I thought everything was resolved.
Right.
But what I didn't know was that I held memory on the cellular level in the sexual center from that time. And that is not accessible to the conscious mind. So we cannot talk about in talk therapy.
Right.
So this is what Freddie alluded to earlier, that unmasking, that revealing through that connection with our sexual self in a conscious way, in a healing way, that can reveal so much that is buried, that however runs the show.
So this is the intelligence we're talking about in the sexual energy. So again, whether you're doing consciousness work or not, when we're in the sexual energy, we're more loving. Again, chemically changed.
Right.
Altered state of consciousness. So with the specific distinctions that we teach in our workshops with breath awareness, muscle awareness, energetic awareness, intention, then again, we're using what is the intelligence of that sexual energy to get more deeply connected beyond the linguistic, narrative, the left brain, analytical cell.
Oh, wow.
So we're actually creating shift energetically.
So Tantra is really just not about sex and intimacy. It's really about emotional well-being.
Well, that's the thing, is people come to it because they heard, Sting makes love for 8 hours a day. Boy, I want to learn that. And you will learn that, no doubt.
Right.
It will inform your lovemaking, your mutual lovemaking. And once you get into it, like sexual meditation, once you get into it, you see it's bigger than the bedroom. It's everywhere, because that kind of listening starts to show up in your conversations.
Yes.
It shows up in how you're feeling about your work you do. It shows up in how you're living your life. Everything starts to shift, becomes more alive, brighter, it becomes more accessible.
Okay. Wow. You know what? We got to go to a quick break real quick. This is getting so good.
Yes.
We're just touching the surface of it, all right? But we'll be right back for digging in more right after this break, guys.
Yeah.
All right, and we're back. Thank you guys once again for tuning into The Truth Behind the Truth tonight, the sexual version. Okay. All right. Go ahead, dial it.
Well, I want to ask this question. I noticed in my research into Tantra Nova, the one word that caught me was surrender. And when I looked into the word surrender, I thought about gender roles and the sexual nature and role play. Can you explain to our viewers about isn't it a connection to that in that word when you are in the situation of whatever intimacy it is, that surrender kind of equates the playing field and who could be feminine, who could be masculine in the scenario of sex?
Absolutely. Dylan, yeah, this is the thing. So when we are zygotes in the womb, we're androgynous, right? And then it's decided we're man or woman, and then we have more or less testosterone or estrogen in our system based on man or woman. So, the thing is in relationship, whether it's a heterosexual relationship, homosexual relationship, whatever it is, there's got to be polarity. So, even in a heterosexual relationship, sometimes the man is sometimes more feminine in some sense, or sometimes he feels more feminine in sexually or in the relationship in areas. So the thing plays around. So it's being conscious of being comfortable with playing whatever the feeling is, expanding it beyond the bedroom. So yeah, you can have play where the man is the more feminine one and the woman is more masculine one, but that expands out into life and relationship too. Wow. So listening to that polarity play as it exists in work relationships, bedroom relationships.
Yeah. It has a lot to do with trusting. I can only surrender, and surrender is always first and foremost to oneself.
Yes. Yes.
When I surrender to myself, of course I surrender to the other, but we also confuse surrender with losing ourselves. Surrender is not losing.
That's true.
It's letting go.
Letting
go into the flow, be it into the emotional bliss or the sexual wonderful pleasure, because to feel that, we want to have cleared shame, fear, guilt, embarrassment. I cannot be total bliss when I'm shameful. And that's true. Emotions that are collective. They are not individual emotions. Each of us have them, particularly around that intimate sexual self. And it was passed on for generations. I mean, this is not new. So in our work, we really support people to clear themselves so they can become free.
Yeah, I want to add as well, Dylan, to your question regarding surrender. When we surrender to anything, we create space to create what we want. If I'm not surrendering to the weather and I'm fighting the weather because it's not what I want it to be, it's cloud, then I'm just spending my energy on fighting the weather as opposed to surrendering to what it is to then create, I'm singing in the rain or whatever it might be. So that's the idea around surrender and how it can be a way of listening in your life.
Also to add to that, the sexual center and the heart center as well. Is there a connection to that? Because I know in another podcast you explained with the male, it's more in the center, and for female it's in the heart center. How can the male get to the heart center of any sexual act? Because I know that we don't think with our heart, or we don't
Dylan, let me give you first some background, and then Freddie will further play on that in terms how that applies to the man or the one who is in his masculine energy. So we work with 3 anchors or dimensions. There's the physical sexual, the emotional and love, and the mental and spiritual. And for most of us, we are compartmentalized, and the compartmentalization produces suffering because with my heart, it's not connected with my head. When I'm primarily in my head, I live in judgment, I live in analysis, disconnected from my emotional or life self. Or there may be a disconnect, like how it was for me, after that 18-year-old experience, that I disconnected my heart from my sex. And I was trying to get love through sex, which was course. So the healing had to do with integrating my heart and my sexual self. So we want to really come to integration of the sexual, emotional, and mental, spiritual, so that there is a flow. Once I'm in flow and my spiritual can inform my heart or my sex can inform my spiritual. They dance together, they communicate together. I am like whole. And so now let's look at how that plays out for men and for women.
Yeah. So the way a man starts to meet a woman at her heart, because a woman is much quicker at cognating, left brain, right brain, analytical, emotional. We're kind of like one dimensional. Like I said, we're either fucking or fighting. Those are the two that we're kind of socialized to be okay with. You know, we learned that, right? That's how we, you know, and we're modeled that and so on. Yeah, there's so much more than that, you know. And so in this work, that starts to broaden. And the way a man starts to get in touch with what's possible is bringing consciousness to this automatic, unconscious sexual aliveness that we have. So he learns how to separate ejaculation from orgasm in the practice. And that's one of the primary edicts in all the variations of Tantra that there are. And that's certainly one of our primary pieces that we teach for the man. So you learn that through muscle awareness, breath awareness, energetic awareness. And you really learn how to sip on what I call this orgasmic nectar, because typically we have the orgasm, it's 3 seconds and we're done. So in this practice, you can actually have an orgasmic feeling for like as long as you want when you have muscle control and breath awareness. And so in that, I know, right? It's like, what?
As long as you want. Wait a minute.
Line me up.
Right. I'm like, wait a minute. Okay.
Something here. So there's a distinction between orgasm and ejaculation. Ejaculation is a reflex that happens in the pelvic floor. There's a muscle ring around the base of the penis, or lingam, as it's called in Sanskrit. And lingam means?
Penis.
No.
Means wand of light.
Wand of light or magic wand. Can it get any better?
Much more endearing than dickhead, right?
So,
wand of light.
Anyway, so at the base, there is this muscle, you know, around the penis, and that muscular ring starts quivering right around 9.5, 9 3/4 on a scale from 1 to 10, 10 being the ejaculatory moment. That ring shortly before that starts quivering, and that quivering assists in ejecting the ejaculate. Once the ejaculate is gone, life force energy is gone.
Refractory.
This is why you want to zone out, milk and cookies, go to sleep. You know? It's a biological thing. The energy one, you know?
So
I love that.
So for the men to learn to master that muscular ring, and we teach very particular pelvic floor muscle practices. It's not rocket science, but it needs to be learned. So imagine once you can hold down that quivering, it doesn't go off. The ejaculate doesn't come out, which means you don't lose the energy. And then orgasm is a sensation that you move up from your magic wand into your heart, into your third eye.
With your breath, your breathing.
With the breath. Because the only way how we can move energy, our life force energy, is through the breath. They go together. You know, when we don't breathe, we die. I mean, it's obvious. If they go together when we are dying, they must go together when we are alive. We put this to use. And there are certain breathing practices that allow you to channel your life force energy in subtle stages and then later on in aroused stages. And that is what the man learns. And now share a little more.
Yes. So in that practice, the man starts to transcend what appears to often his partner as lust, selfish love, even though that's where we feel, like we talked about earlier. That's where, guys, it's okay to feel something intimate, something emotional, something deep. You know, in that sexual. So it's like, yeah, of course I love you, baby. Look at me. But it's like, it appears to her that all you're interested in is taking something from me.
Right.
When we can learn how to channel that energy with some discipline and some awareness and bring that, we can actually bring it to the heart. And then she begins to see that, oh, she trusts now. There's something more. There's something deeper that you want to connect with than just get in me, right? And that's fine, and it has its place. I'm not making either thing wrong or bad or good. I'm saying to know the difference, to have options.
Yeah.
Because
more.
Wow. You know this stuff. If it's anywhere, it's everywhere. So again, like I said, it starts to become the way you do everything.
I want to add here something, because let's broaden it out, because what we are saying is not just gender-based.
Right.
You know, given that it's energy, and we all are made of energy, life force energy that brought us into this life. So it doesn't matter if I'm heterosexual, bisexual, homosexual, transgender. There's always, it's about that polarity of yin and yang. You know, if you want to take it out of the gender thing, let's not even call it feminine and masculine, because we get so caught up in that gender thing. So let's say there are two guys. You know, one is more in their masculine and the other one is more in their feminine, or their yang and yin. Yeah. So if that is not there, that yin and yang flow, there is no magnetism.
No polarity.
It's like, you know, two yangs are like it's like two rockets, or like, you know, and two yins, they are like this, you know, like you know. So they actually, that straight and that round, complement each other very well, no matter what kind of relationship it is.
And that can dance. I mean,
let me interrupt you guys real quick. We got to go to break real quick. We can finish from that point. I know Parnell's got a lot, so you come up after their point, Parnell, after break, okay?
Oh, I got some stuff I want to add.
All right, we'll be right back after this quick break, guys.
Good.
All right, and we're back. Parnell, take it away, right?
My turn, yay. Well, first of all, I'm so glad you all are here for this show, because you have said a couple things that have just really like, ooh. Like when you mentioned the whole thing about we're neither all spirit or all flesh, but both at the same time. And, you know, and I don't know where we lost that connection, because I mean, a lot of ancient civilizations, sexual practice was part of religious ceremony. But somewhere along the way, somebody decided, oh no, sex is bad and it's dirty. You know, you should only do that if you're going to have children. You can't do it just because it feels good and it's fun. And my pastor, the late Archbishop Carl Bean, used to always say, listen, if God is a part of life and sex is a part of life, then God is a part of sex. So we can't keep separating as these things are like, if you do this, you're bad. If you do this, you're good.
Yeah.
And I know with Tantra is the whole thing of really connect. I've taken some Tantra yoga and stuff, and it's such an interesting thing when you're not thinking about who it is that I want to screw, but actually connecting in that heart energy where, you know, a lot of times we get partnered up in class, like, oh, I'm not with the hot guy that I wanted to be with or with the hot girl I wanted to be with. But you just think about, okay, you know what? I'm going to connect here with that person and not here in my root chakra, you know, and it's all of a sudden you really start seeing the beauty of humanity.
Yes.
We connect on that level, because it's not about just what makes me hard.
Yeah, you got it. That's really it, you know, because I say that this is about seeing ourselves in each other. You know, we could teach these practices to nuns and priests as they vow to celibacy, because there's a self-love practice, because it's not about the actual act of sex. It's about the energy that we are when we're in that place.
Mm.
You can be in that when you bring consciousness. Interesting. So when you bring consciousness to the sexual, creativity and pleasure start showing up in areas of life that seem completely unrelated to sex and the simple process of living. You know, it's because when the listing shifts, you know, the listening is deeper, as opposed to, well, I hate my job, 30 more years of retirement. That dog doesn't hunt anymore because the feeling that happens when you have that conversation internally. Hating my job. And so I can shift to it being grateful about my job or change the work that I do. But the feeling of that conversation. So the conversations, the thoughts we have start to have an energetic effect on us, and we start to shift how we're being and listening and creating our life.
What about if we are going to show you a little practice here? That shows the energy connection. And that is really great. It's just building on what you just shared, you know, about the heart connection and how that is further cultivated consciously in the tantric practice. Are you up for it?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
Yeah. Okay, absolutely.
I don't know. Elspeth's praising. Are we up for it? Oh,
There's a couple of pieces to this in terms of foundation, which are the witness state of mind. So one of the things that you want to do is breathe. The breathing is parasympathetic, but like into the belly. So you're breathing nose and then down and then extending the diaphragm and belly. Because what you want to start developing is the watching of your thoughts. That kind of breathing forces you to think to breathe that way. So it gives you a little bit of a pause, a step away from whatever conversation, like, what is this? How crazy is it? Whatever. You can start to see, not to make any of it wrong, just to watch what the thinking is. So this first exercise we're going to show you is just a heart-to-heart connection. So we just touch at each other's heart and we gaze into each other's left eye. That's the receptive center of the brain. And then we synchronize our breath together, breathing in together, breathing out together, breathing in together, breathing out together.
And when we breathe in, we receive from the partner's hand into our heart. And when we exhale, we send energy, love energy into the other's heart.
Receiving in, on the inhalation.
Sending on the exhalation. So now we have a love circle. Breathing in, breathing out. Receiving, sending. And what's essential is that the breath is synchronized now. You can see now we literally are in that circuit of love. And it's very sweet. You know, I don't want to lose his hand.
Well, I want to say, too, one of the things about that, even in that direction, if you were doing that, you would be thinking in your mind. So what you want to do is give your mind something to do. So there's the breathing that I told you, the parasympathetic breathing. Okay. Then there is the attention on your breath and your intention with your mind's focus to send it in the direction that you're wanting to send it, receive it in the direction that when you're wanting to receive it. So that gives the mind that's going like, well, I'm thinking about my job, or I'm thinking about how long do I have to be here, whatever else is going on, that gives your mind a focus. And then you can start to tune into the effects of just being without the story mind, you know, because that's the stuff that gets in the way. I mean, it's good to have your analytical thinking and all of that.
Right.
Things, but it's also nice to be able to tap into nothing.
Yeah. But the beauty of that practice is that by actually connecting with our heart and have our focus on that, and that circle then actually allows us to drop out of the analytical mind that is so judgmental and so assessing all the time. Once we are connected with the heart, we feel that love, that warmth, we cannot help it. And that is where we want to connect with another. Now, for the men to learn to breathe up his desire that comes from his testosterone energy, that is so powerful, moving it up from his sex into his heart, then he uses that powerful, wonderful, pleasurable energy to fortify, to fuel his love. First and foremost for himself, you know. Then, of course, when his heart is open, guess what? I notice his heart is open. You don't have to say anything. You feel it.
Right.
So when his heart is open, my heart opens. When my heart opens, my sexual center opens. It's just the other way around for the one who is more in their feminine or their yin. Most women or the feminine one starts feeling in their heart center when they want to connect. Most men or the one who is in their yang energy starts feeling it in their sexual center when they want to connect. So never mind, we both want to connect, but we come from different loci. He comes from here, she comes from there, so we are like two ships passing in the night. So it's in the tantric practice, through that guiding up of that energy from his sex into his heart, connecting with her heart. I do it now for heterosexual couples, but it's the same for gay couples, lesbian couples. My heart opens, then my sexual center opens, and then we have a circuit again. It's all about the circularity that then makes us be in that flow together. You can already see there's a certain dance that.
Right.
It's like that old joke that, women need a reason to have sex, men just need a place.
Right. Cornell, we are evolving. That's the good
thing. On that note, okay, you know what? I hate to. Gosh,
please come back.
Yes,
we want you to come back.
This.
Oh my goodness!
Oh my God! I mean, there's so much many layers that we need to bring out, and have conversations.
Yeah, I would love to.
Okay. And so, is the information on your workshops and classes on your website?
Yes. So the website is tantranova.com. TANTRANOVA.com. It scrolls along down here, and our book that is just recently came out also in Audible, in audiobook. It's called Sexual Enlightenment: How to Create Lasting Fulfillment in Life, Love, and Intimacy.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And when you go to the homepage of Tantra Nova, you scroll down and you can click at Audible and go right to the Amazon page. And it's a great read. It builds on what we, opened up today. And then, of course, on the program page of our website, there are, variety of workshops. Freddie teaches a workshop for men only, men, sex, and power. Yes. I teach one for women only. We have co-ed workshops. So plenty of offerings.
Wow. You know what? I am just so thrilled. I mean, this has just been so impactful. I mean, it really has tonight.
Yeah, you got to come back because we didn't even really get into the book. And I started reading the book, and there was a couple of questions I had about sexual energy and the reference to Napoleon Hill. But
we will definitely bring him back, Harold, to get that in for sure. Guys, we will be in touch. Our producer will be in touch with you so we can get you back in really quickly, based upon your schedule, so we can continue this beautiful conversation. Yeah. I mean, I'm so enlightened to everybody is in our audience tonight. Wow. All right.
Thank you guys so much.
Guys, thank you so much for tuning into the Truth Behind Truth. Thank you, Freddie. Thank you so much for tuning in tonight.
Thank you, guys.
We appreciate you guys so much. All right. Have a great night, guys. Thank you again for tuning into what? The truth behind the truth. Yes.